Good morning and welcome to Crack the Mic with Agent of Change, DeCorey Davis. And this week's segment is entitled Religion and Mental Health. And to help me further this discussion, I have a very astute and well-informed panel that includes mental health professional and counselor for Holistic Lady Counseling Services, Tamika Brown, Dr. David Bullock, a gifted genius, pastor, professor, and social commentator who has appeared on MSNBC's The Rachel Maddow Show, The Ed Show, and has contributed to syndicated press like USA Today, New York Times, just to name a few. Reverend Andre Green, a steward and spiritual leader at Mount Hermon AME Church in Miami Gardens, Florida. He's also a social activist who sits on the board for PACT, a nonprofit organization that has been fighting for justice in Miami-Dade County for over 30 years. And last but certainly not least, Isaiah Wallace, a motivational speaker, owner of Crown Security Company, and one of the executives to the podcast. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Most people would say that religion can influence mental health in both positive and negative ways. Religion can serve as a source of comfort and strength when people are under stress. At other times, this connection may be helpful or even harmful. If it creates stress or acts as a barrier to treatment. However, I argue with the former part of the argument because religious education, in my view, can be instrumental to improving one's mental health because it teaches things like the fruits of the Spirit that are love and patience, just to name a few, that are instrumental to both the development and the recovery of the one who subscribes to those set of religious ideals. Nonetheless, in an article published in the International Journal of Mental Health Systems entitled Religious Education Can Contribute to Adolescents' Mental Health in School Settings, written by Crystal Emil M. Estrada and John Kobashi. They suggested the following, that, and I quote, mental disorders are global health concerns due to their widespread occurrences and deliberating effects, end quote, in which I concur to this point, however, disagree with the point made as it referenced religion as the culprit behind the formation of these identity crises seen as early as in the adolescent stage of human development. Moreover, I also like to contrast my opposing views to what was already stated when mentioned in that article, and I quote, during this period, when an individual develops the capacity to understand and internalize religion, its beliefs, values, and practices, which can lead to changes in patterns of religious participation. Furthermore, the emergence of mental disorders coincides with this developmental period, with an estimated half of mental disorders manifesting as early as 14 years old, end quote. Now, I like to ask this question to the panel, if I may. And certainly the intent of the question is to combat the ideal of separation of church and state. Most recently, a report came out and it stated that 37.1% of our school-age children suffer from poor mental health. Now, if that's not indicative of the need for faith or prayer in school, you tell me otherwise. Now, let me just ask this question to the panel. Do you believe that religion has aided in the decline of mental health in America, even as early as during the adolescent stage of human development? And if so, why or why not? Dr. Bullock, you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, let me say thank you again for inviting me to participate in this discussion. And just to cut to the chase, I mean, such a very, very complicated topic to begin with. But in terms of the article that you referenced and religious education, I do not think that religion has aided in the decline of mental health in America, whether that's in the early stages of human development for adolescents or for fully fledged adults. I think the postmodern world that we live in is a world where there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of information. People are bombarded with messages that are very violent, very negative, and it's tough trying to balance physical wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness, economic wellness, and have a sense of purpose in the society that we live in. I think, if anything, religious education, mindfulness practices, meditation, the virtues of being patient, empathy, all of those things that I think can be connected to either confessional or non-confessional religious instruction actually provide very great coping mechanisms for the stressors and stress of the society that we live in.
Thank you for sharing your sentiment, Dr. Bullock. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Reverend Green?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I believe it says, do you believe that religion has aided in decline of mental health? I think that it has. One of the reasons basically is that, with, religion, for an example, it helps a person, as Dr. Bullock say, tolerate stress. It, generates peace, a sense of purpose and forgiveness. Those are good principles and they're very positive. In John, 1:9, it says, if we confess our sins, he will faithfully and just and willfully, take care of us and purify us from all unrighteousness. And I think that, Christianity or religion, it brings forth those positive things in people. It teaches them, kindness, charity, teamwork,
Right.
those kind of principles, and I believe that the church basically helps people with their confidence in God. It calms their fears.
Absolutely. That's powerful. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Tamika, on this here question?
Sure, absolutely. And good morning, everybody. Thank you again. I do want to apologize for my voice. My voice is a little hoarse at this time, so just please bear with me. But I would, I guess, piggyback on what Dr. Bullock mentioned. In my personal opinion, also my professional opinion, because this is something that I, deal with as a therapist. To answer the short answer to the question for me, it would be a no, because I believe that mental health and religion, in the context of coupling faith with mental health, is absolutely 100% vital. It is something that is absolutely necessary. It is needed. I'm all for clinicians who are well versed in eclectic modalities, who have experience, who know what they're doing, know the research, know how to target certain things within the field. But I don't believe that religion in and of itself has caused a decline in mental health. I think the world in and of itself has changed, period. Parents are no longer, the parents of yesteryear are no longer the parents of today. You're dealing with parents who are younger and younger, who are raising children without a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of morals, a lot of just even proper etiquette. Let's forget even morals for a moment. There are just certain things that are not being to me passed down in a good way to each generation. And so you are finding that in adolescence and younger, not even just adolescents,
Right.
just even toddlers, you can see certain traits and certain tendencies coming forth very, very early. And so to me, it is very vital for both the mental health community and the faith-based community to work together and to help, our young ones, to help our teens so that they can become viable contributors to society. So, again, the short answer for me would be no. I think they're both needed, and there are other extraneous factors to me that have caused the decline in mental health for adolescents and the youth in general.
Thank you for sharing, Tamika. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Isaiah?
Yes. I'm not an expert like the other panelists in this subject of mental health or religion. I'm just an avid believer in Christ. In my opinion, the purpose of religion is itself for humanity is to be a tool. It's a tool to, better uncover our morality and our sense of right and wrong and just and fair. Treat others as you would have them treat you and such. As far as it contributing to any decline, I think it's the opposite. I think that the reason that we have the amount of peace or the measure of compromises that we are able to get with other people is because we have a set of universal values, in these major religions that influence people to want to make peace with others and see through their differences. I think that religion is one of the best things that humans have made because it allows us to see the world through other people's eyes.
Hey, man, I echo that sentiment. Now, let's just go to the second question. And I want to ask this question. In your view, should religious and secular education work in tandem to achieve the desired result? That is good mental health for our children?
Yeah, the question, I guess you would, in my view, should religion be a part of secular education? I would say that it should be separate. It shouldn't be a part of our education because you have different religions, and basically, religion is a search for God. That's basically what religion is man's search for God. And religion is an organized, it's a community-based system and belief. Spirituality is different, but religion is something that I think should be separated. I don't think it's something should be taught in school, but I believe that the attributes of religion will aid you in school because it teaches you far as, Sister Brown was saying, is it teaches you the golden rules. It teaches you the etiquettes of things in life. It teaches you about right and wrong. You can learn those things, in your home and in the church. A good Christian-based church teach those good moral principles. And I think all those things, teamwork, community organization, being a part of a group, and those type of things, I think will aid and assist you in education. But I don't think that it should be a place in education. I think it's a difference between religion and spirituality, but we're talking about religion.
Welcome that sentiment, Reverend Green. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Dr. Bullock?
No disrespect to the Reverend, and I love my AME brother, but I think he's completely wrong about this. learning about religion is something that should happen in public institutions. In fact, it does happen in public institutions. If you go to any public university that's decent, they have a religion department. You don't have to teach people that Jesus saves to teach religion. You can teach people about Islam, the history thereof. You can teach people about Christianity, the history thereof, Taoism, etc. If we can learn about sexuality, we can learn about religion. We don't need to have these, this is spirituality and this is religion, this is faith, and this. I mean, look, education is education is education. Now, in terms of the question, look, mindfulness and prayer don't necessarily have to be presented as two separate things. I think for African American children, particularly, if that's what we're focusing on, who come from, whether they go to church or not, I mean, there still are African isms that we have retained: the shout, the dance, the shriek, the scream, the music, the drum. I think helping people understand that that a lot of what we have and a lot of what we have created, whether in religious context or not, hip hop or not, are ways of coping with the stress of living in this postmodern society. If it helps people not kill each other and kill themselves, I think we ought to do it.
I welcome that sentiment. But let me play the devil's advocate for a moment, Dr. Bullock. And I can see both sides of the argument. Dr. Green is advocating against it, which a lot of folks are advocating against, are advocating for the separation of church and state, simply because of the Constitution, the First Amendment to the Constitution. And Article 1 says that the government should not, I'll paraphrase, not to be verbatim, but the government should not respect the establishment of any religious organization over another one. So what do you say in that instance, Dr. Bullock? Did our founding fathers have it wrong?
Well, look, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, and in terms of founding fathers, there is no such thing as original intent. People who study the Constitution do not follow what the original founders meant, because if we followed the founders, we'd still be slaves. So next, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I do know this: the establishment of religion remains in question. Of course, tax dollars don't fund religious institutions, so we understand that. But if I'm Catholic and I have a medical plan at my job, right? That pays for birth control, say, right? Can I opt out if I'm Muslim and my religious beliefs say don't take the vaccine, but I'm a federal government employee? Maybe there's an exemption. I mean, some of this stuff is still being negotiated. So it's not like you can quote the Constitution as if it's a sacred text that answers these questions. All I'm saying is that if you go to any school worth its salt, they're going to teach you about different religious options without compelling you to believe any of them. That's the distinction between the seminary and the divinity school. That's the distinction between a seminary and a religious studies department. Some of my great atheistic friends are great religious historians. So could a child learn, say, about Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, pick a ism, and in that context, pick up some practice or be exposed to something that would help them, instead of cussing and punching, think before they respond to something they don't like in the classroom? I say, yeah, I think that's good.
Can I add something there to that? This is Reverend Green.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Reverend Green. Retort.
Yeah. What Dr. Bullock's talking about is education. It's good to be educated and to understand, religion, but religion can get really deep. There's certain religions out there that believe in drinking Christian blood to help you see God. So there's a difference between religion and spirituality. And I think that we have to be careful when we look at, religion, because religion could be symbols and rituals and things like that, people worship. So where do we divide the line? That's why I feel that it should be separated. It shouldn't be something that should be taught. I think that Christian education is a good foundation. As Dr. Bullock says, it gives you those type of things, those qualities that you need. And like, the sister was saying, to be a good person. I think those things are founded in Christianity, but I don't think that I think that a person in their own home should have the right to develop their child, and, education is different. Yeah, there should be a general education, reading, writing, math and arithmetic and those type of things, that you need to function in society. But, when you talk about religion and having that, into the school system, I think you're looking for a lot of, that's a rabbit hole I wouldn't want to go down. And just to finish up on that, we got to remember, since, we're talking about Black, people of color, the church has always been the one-stop shop for us, because we weren't exposed to other things, our health. The church had to provide our health. It had to provide our education. It had to provide our mental health. It had to provide our financial health. All those things we need to learn as Black people came out of the church. And so now it's a different time. Things are more specialized, and you can go and see psychiatrists. You can go and do this, where the church doesn't need to handle that burden. It's just like a retirement program, just like, I do retirement. There's 3 legs to a retirement. You have your pension, you have your savings, and you have your investments. Now, we don't have savings anymore. We don't have pension, but I mean, Social Security. Social Security now is the only thing that we have to handle that weight of all that pressure. And that's the same thing with the church. The church was not developed to handle all these different things that we're handling, but we had to do that in the Black community because we didn't have access to all these other things.
Okay, I welcome that sentiment. We'll digress on that point. Tamika, you want to share your thoughts on that question?
Yes. For me, I believe that, religion, I actually agree with both gentlemen's points. For me personally, I believe that they actually, for me, they already work in tandem, in the context that for the clients that I see, I may not be able to, I have to be very, I have to use my discretion basically in talking about Jesus. I'm a Jesus girl, and but I'm in a professional setting, I'm in a school setting, I'm in a setting where there's a potential that a student, could possibly take offense, that could be overheard. So I have to keep in mind that those parameters are there for me. But it does not stop me in private in praying for a client. It does not stop me if, one of the things that we discuss is setting life goals. In one of the categories when we're doing, cognitive behavioral therapy is spirituality. And so though spirituality, of course, is different from religion in and of itself, but it is still an opportunity for me to now work, faith work, maybe some scriptures without saying the Bible says, and different things to use as a method to be able to just simply plant a seed that, I have to trust God to water. And so for me, we do have to be careful. I do believe that a level of decline has happened overall in the morality of society with taking, God I'll say not religion, but God out of schools. And a lot of people, even many Christians, unfortunately, have become very fearful, even to say who they believe in. And but for me, I just find that both already work in tandem in the context of what I do. Where I don't necessarily have to be explicit and say Jesus, Jesus, but in my private prayer time, I can say Jesus, I plead the blood on this, I cover this student, I cover this teacher, et cetera, and I can make it work in tandem for me. So that's how I would, answer that question. A little bit of a slant, but that's how I would answer that.
Okay, well stated, Tamika. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Isaiah?
Yes. Again, I'm not a professional. It's just my opinion as a parent to 2 young daughters. I do not want anyone in school teaching them anything but reading, writing, and arithmetic. History, maybe a elective here or there, but I'm not too concerned about them learning about somebody else's take on a religion. And, as I stated before, religion is a tool in of itself. So what if there was some Catholic priest who turned teacher, and they happen to bring some of the controversy that they have created within the church to the school, or if it's like a extremist Muslim person and now your kid is in a terrorist cell, those to me are real possibilities, because we live in a world where people wish to use religion as a way to mold other people in the worst cases. And I just don't see that being a positive thing in our school system. I don't see it being a positive for the world if we were to choose one religion to teach and not teach the other ones the same way as well.
I welcome that. And my thoughts on it is as follows. I do believe that there's an approach that can be taken. And there's this big fancy word called ecumenical. There can be an ecumenical approach with respect to religion, which means you embrace all faith. I like to also reference this idiom: you can't have one without the other. Because even though you've had people advocating against church and state, I do believe that religion is appropriate with respect to being taught in education, because it serves as the repairer of the breach that was caused by humanity and their inability to come contrite by the thoughts shared in their minds negatively, even if it's about oneself that ultimately dictates one's modus operandi. So having said that, the two, religion and education, are germane and shouldn't be in isolation, in my view. Isaiah, you have the next question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dear panel, is there a relationship between religion and good mental health? And if so, why or why not?
I'll jump in here. Look, great conversation. Let me just say a couple things. One, when we talk about mental health, we're also talking about critical thinking and mental clarity. And so I'm a little concerned about some of the stuff Isaiah said in response to the last question. I won't rehash it, but people who think critically can identify terrorists that are trying to radicalize them. That's the whole hope of critical thinking. So when we talk about mental health, we're not just talking about not committing suicide, right? Suicidal ideation. We're not just talking about people who might have a psychosis or manifest psychotic behavior. We're talking about being resilient. We're talking about weathering.
Right.
We're talking about critical thinking. We're talking about being able to empathize, self-regulation. How does my behavior and my words affect other people? We're talking about self-awareness. I think we haven't really talked about what we mean by mental health, so I'm just kind of throwing some of this stuff out. And I think if you think about what mental health means, and you understand mental health is operating on a continuum,
Right.
right?
Right.
I mean, it's a lot like physical health. Look, hey, I'm trying to hit my ideal 185 with an 8-piece ab and big quads and big chest. All right. That's what I'm trying to hit. Sometimes I'm 171, sometimes I'm 195, sometimes it's too many carbs, sometimes it's a little too much vodka. You know what I mean? But when I look at my numbers after 6 months or 3 months or 9 months or 12 months, I can say, you know what, for the most part, I had a healthy lifestyle last year. So when we talk about mental health, we have to think about it the same way, right? It's on a continuum. Most
Right.
of us don't track it, right? Most of us don't know how to track it, don't know that we should track it. Just because somebody had an outburst or had a bad day doesn't mean they're mentally unhealthy.
Absolutely.
And so, in response to the question, then I think, is there a relationship between religion and good mental health? There might be. And then of course there could be a relationship between religion and bad mental health. It just depends. And I'm glad we're having the conversation, but I think people need to really think about what do we mean when we say mental health, good mental health, religion, right? Because all of
Right.
these things can conspire to allow us to live our best lives.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. You want to share your thoughts, Tamika?
Yeah, I would actually just listening to Dr. Bullock, I absolutely agree with everything that he said. Mental health is to, deal with the emotional well-being, the psychological well-being of a person. And so, as he said, religion, depending on your opinion, there are many who unfortunately have experienced church hurt, church abuse, who have experienced, great atrocities at the hands of those who lead different ministries. So it really just depends to me on a person's experience. But overall, if it is done in a healthy way, if you have people who are good stewards over both the clinical aspect and the spiritual aspect, I do believe that it can work harmoniously. It really just comes down to those that are in those positions to be able to do that effectively for others.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Tamika. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Reverend Green?
Yes, I agree with both. I think that the relationship between religion and mental health is a good thing. One of the things is basically what the doctor was talking about, critical thinking. Wow, that's a whole nother subject in itself. One of the reasons I think that contributes to some of the mental illness is the stress and pressure of society that allows people not to have critical thinking. I think that religion kind of helps that, because it's shown statistically to reduce suicide rates, alcoholism, drug abuse, and are some of the benefits. And some of the benefits of a religion is being in a community, creating a sense of belonging to a group, or trustworthiness, social engagement. All those things are very healthy. The ritual side of it is helping people to cope with difficult life situations. Those are things that you do in the church. And then teaching, providing guidelines, to live by, the importance of doing, what is right, those type of things are good, and I think that, as it says, as a man thinketh, so is he. There's a lot of different verses in the Bible talks about, the way you think and some of the things that you need to think on, to have that peace of mind. You know, Philippians 4, 8, and 9 talks about that. Some of the things you need to think on, you know, what is true, what is noble, what is right, what is pure, what is lovely, what is admirable. You know, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, you know, these things are the things that you think on, and it will give you a peace of mind. There's just a lot of things, a lot of scriptures that motivate you, even as an athlete. You know, I was an athlete, played football, basketball. You know, we use those kind of things to motivate us, because you have to call on something other than yourself. Because, you know, man in itself, we can be defeated, but God can never be defeated in our minds. There's been a lot of examples in life where people have used their faith. You know, every day when I wake up in the morning, I say, who do you serve today, faith or fear? You know, I serve faith, I serve God, I serve man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you know, that's the positive attribute.
Sharing that, Reverend Green. You want to go ahead and share your thoughts, Isaiah?
Yes, just briefly, I'm sorry. I would like to say that the relationship between religion and good mental health has, you know, to me, been historically present. You know, there's been a positive correlation. When I think back to even some of our oldest laws that humanity has conceived, like Hammurabi's Code, for example, uh, our our opus is of justice is just that, an eye for an eye, an ox for an ox. You know, wherever you
Right.
slight me, I wish to get that back. And I think that religion helps us see something better, see something like Mr. Green just said, that God can't be defeated, you know, in our minds. God is infallible, you know. So to me, it just represents an ideal. It represents something that's able to direct your mind and those critical thinking abilities and those stress coping. It directs that to a target like a North Star.
Absolutely. That's powerful, powerful. And I'll just like to say, I believe that there is a relationship between religion and mental health, because in my view, religion and spirituality is rooted in trying to understand the meaning of life. Because life comes with no manual. Rather, you've got to live it on its terms. And in so doing, oftentimes can become a very difficult task. And I would like to share this brief experience where faith became my coping skill. And had it not been for the distraction of the good gospel songs. In fact, about 7 years ago was probably one of the worst times in my life. And I was very suicidal, depressed. I lost my sister, who was 38 years old, to ovarian cancer. I lost 2 cousins and an aunt. In that same time span, I was also working and had a injury. Had it not been for God's protection, I probably would have lost my life. But the injuries are so harmful that they deal with me, or they are with me today. But outside of that, I also was involved in an accident in which I was hospitalized for 8 days. And at that moment, I was diagnosed with 2nd stage kidney failure.
Wow.
And had it not been for the coping skills, and I get emotional talking about it now, the distractions of the gospel songs when I'm out riding or out walking and having these suicidal thoughts, and I can just hear a song sang by a gospel psalmist that says, "Hey, you know, it's joy in living," or "Thank God for grace and mercy. Thank God for just
Yeah.
another day. It was in those very times that faith used became my coping skill. So I'll just like to say, I just believe that it is a very powerful thing to have faith and
Yes.
to understand that there is a relationship between having good mental health and having faith, or as we would say, religion. Okay. Tamika, you have the next question.
Not a problem, and thank you. I'm going to pose to the panel tonight, how does religion affect mental health in this country, in your view, in America? Reverend Green, do you want me to repeat?
Sure. Sure. No. Okay. Sure. I can answer. Yeah. It can in a positive way. Remember. It's compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. It identifies life lessons, even from challenging situations. Religion. I think that it affects in a very positive way. It allows, it gives us, religion gives us time, to rest, as well as holidays, other social times and events and things like that. I think all those things are healthy for us. When it says, they say take time out and things like that. I think that religion, creates a sense of belonging to a group. All those things are very healthy in our mental health and things like that. I think that they will contribute greatly. So, that's my view, on how I feel about, how it affects us in America. I think it's a very positive thing, especially for us people of color. I think that if it wasn't for religion, if it wasn't for Christianity, I don't know if we would have made it through the Middle Passage, so I think it's very positive.
Awesome. And Dr. Bullock?
Yes. So the question is, how does religion affect mental health in America?
Yes.
I mean, and I don't know, I think I hear somebody's background. I don't know who that is, but such a difficult question. Like whoever wrote these questions really is just like, really challenging me tonight. If I was at the Capitol riots and I voted for Trump and I had my Bible and my gun, and my mental health probably was not, that good. I mean, religion in America is not established, but it is flourishing. And so there are so many different versions of it. I think in the society that we live in right now, it's very important for people to discover the truth that they have to decide for themselves what works for them and what they want to believe. When we get it right, it works. When we don't, it doesn't. And so my fear is that people are waiting for somebody else to tell them what to believe to make their life better. And in the process, give up their agency, give up their ability to frame and shape their own life and decide for themselves. When we get it right, it works. When we don't, it doesn't.
Powerful, Dr. Bullock.
Indeed. Isaiah?
Yes. Well, I don't know much about the statistical effects of religion on mental health in America, and I'm no expert. But I have a strong opinion, and it is somewhat different from Dr. Bullock. I believe that good mental health is something that can be immutable. It could be the thing, as if one of the people who responded to my earlier comment about mental health being, in short, religion and mental health, in my view, have a positive relationship. And I think that America has benefited tremendously from this flourishing support structure. I think that if not for religion, I wouldn't be able to vote. I think, that it is affected, especially Black Americans and minorities in profound ways. Religious being the springboard for our civil rights and in a drastic change in our life, and even during that middle passage that another panelist was speaking about. So I feel that religion has done nothing but great things for America and for the mental health of the citizens in America.
See, this is the thing though, right? And I don't really like cut in on people. And this goes against all of my etiquette and ethical aspirations. But this just isn't true, Isaiah. America had slaves because of religion. So religion hasn't always produced the right result. The founding fathers did not do the right thing and then blamed Ham in Genesis, right? Bad reading of the text. So if we want to kind of really get into like religion and mental health, we need to get in there. The slaves that were captured from Africa that were on those boats practiced traditional African religions or Islam. So, nobody's really kind of done that investigation in terms of the ones that died versus the ones that didn't, etc. But my real character witness tonight is Nat Turner. If you read the Confessions of Nat Turner, he is bona fidely under some psychosis. Now, Sister Brown is the therapist, but if you read the Confessions of Nat Turner, he's gone. He is out of his mind. But he's the only one outside of Denmark Vesey in the pantheon of liberators that realized slavery was crazy and he had to stop the slave master, and God told him to do it. Now, nobody wants to talk about Nat Turner. So if we're talking about religion and mental health and Black folks and oppression and critical race theory and all and what we experience, Brother Castile, Brother Martin, Aiyana Jones, George Floyd, like if we want to get into it, it's like if you're in a society that oppresses you, even when it says it's not gonna oppress you, and it still oppresses you, and it's both structural, institutional, and individual. Now we want to talk about mental health in that context and religion. The fact that Black folks aren't waking up dropping dead is a miracle of God. And nobody wants to acknowledge that fact.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I respect your opinion. You are rightfully so to disagree with me because I overstated some things. But as far as religion, we have churches that Black folks have started, that have positively affected their communities as long as they've been around. So when you're speaking about say for instance the slave trade being started and they use a religion as an excuse or an alibi, to me that's not saying much about the religion but the people who are utilizing it, because as I said before, it's more of a tool. The religion can't function without someone to believe in it, to follow its tenets and commandments, to contribute to that organization that it founded on its principles. Like it lives and breathes. It's a group of people and a group of ideas.
And I just want to add one thing to that, is that, everyone that shouts God, God doesn't mean God. There's spiritual wickedness in high places, and that goes
absolutely
into the slave trade. As we say, the deity, the devil, is the wisest person of all. People use their own self-interest and they take scriptures out of the Bible so that it will be in line with their own self-interest, because they know the power of the word of God. So they use the word of God and they convert it to make sure that it fits their own purpose and their own needs. But God said, study the word and know the word. And, in your heart, there's a thing that's called intuition. That intuition is God speaking to you. There's a conscious, there's a subconscious and superconscious. And anything that you think, going back to that critical thinking, you imprint on your subconscious mind, become a reality in your life. The subconscious mind doesn't know you're joking. If you say something like, man, I'm crazy, or I'm stupid, or I wish this would happen, you're imprinting that, so it becomes a reality. Your words are very powerful. Life and death is in the power of your words. The things that we say, all that is geared towards mental health. That's why the scriptures teach you positive words, positive things that you will say, and you confess these things, and it strengthens you mentally. It strengthens your critical thinking. It allows that small, still voice to speak to you and guide you in your life.
Absolutely. Well, guess what? We unfortunately are out of time for this segment, Religion and Mental Health on Crack the Mic. I would encourage you to tune in on next week for part 2 of this discussion with our sagacious panel, Dr. David Bullock, mental health professional Tamika Brown, and Reverend Andre Green, and motivational speaker Isaiah Wallace. Again, this is your agent of change, DeCorey Davis, signing off with Crack the Mic.